There's something about Michael Jordan that still makes grown men tremble decades after his last game. It's not just the 6 rings or the perfect finals record. It's something darker, more primal. It's the way he turned defense into psychological warfare, how he made guarding the league's best players his personal obsession, and why even today, Hall of Famers speak his name with a mixture of respect and genuine fear. While the world debates rings and stats, the real battle between Jordan and LeBron was fought in the shadows, on the defensive end, where legends either break or become immortal. Recent revelations from Gary Payton and explosive comments from Stephen A. Smith have ripped open this debate, exposing truths that cut deeper than any highlight reel ever could. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about greatness. Because when the dust settles and the numbers fade, only one truth remains untouchable. Most superstars pick their spots. They calculate energy, manage minutes, and delegate the toughest assignments to role players. Michael Jordan operated by a completely different code, one that seems almost alien by today's standards. He didn't just accept defensive challenges, he demanded them. Gary Payton, one of the most feared defenders in NBA history, recently dropped a bombshell that exposes the fundamental difference between Jordan and every other superstar who followed. Michael Jordan always took it to a point where he wanted to guard the best player, Payton revealed, his words carrying the weight of someone who lived through those wars. Even if I started talking trash with him, he would always tell Scottie Pippen, "I'm taking Gary tonight." Think about that for a moment. The league's most dangerous scorer volunteering to take on its most dangerous defender. While other stars might shy away from such matchups to preserve energy for offense, Jordan treated them like personal vendettas. This wasn't strategy, it was obsession. Here's what the stats can't capture: the psychological impact. When Jordan stepped up to guard you, he wasn't just trying to stop your shot. He was trying to break your spirit, to make you question whether you even belonged on the same court. That predatory instinct, that refusal to back down from any challenge, created an aura that transcended basketball itself. Gary Payton's recent revelations about facing Jordan read like a psychological thriller. The man they called the Glove for his ability to suffocate opposing guards found himself in mental warfare with someone who operated on an entirely different level of competitive insanity. The 1996 NBA Finals between Chicago and Seattle became the ultimate testing ground. Payton, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, finally got his chance to guard Jordan one-on-one after coach George Karl made the adjustment in Game 4. What followed was pure basketball violence. Jordan shot just 22 for 60 over the final 3 games when Payton was assigned to him. But here's the twisted part: Jordan seemed to enjoy it. The psychological scars from facing Jordan run deep in NBA lore. Players who guarded him didn't just lose games, they lost confidence. They questioned their abilities. They faced sleepless nights replaying possessions where Jordan had stripped them of more than just the basketball. He had stripped them of their dignity. LeBron James approached defense like a grandmaster approaches chess, calculated, strategic, and always thinking 3 moves ahead. While Jordan played defense like a street fighter, LeBron treated it like an intellectual exercise, conserving energy for the moments when his defensive brilliance could swing the entire series. The numbers support LeBron's defensive excellence. 6 all-defensive first-team selections, including a legendary stretch from 2009 to 2013, when he was arguably the most versatile defender in the league. During those Miami Heat years, LeBron could guard all 5 positions, switching seamlessly from point guards to power forwards, anchoring defenses that won championships. But here's where the fundamental difference emerges. LeBron's defensive dominance was situational. He chose his moments, picked his battles, and strategically managed his energy to maximize impact across 4 quarters and an 82-game season. LeBron doesn't want to tire himself out because he does so much on his basketball team, Gary Payton explained, highlighting the calculated nature of the Kings' approach. This strategic mindset allowed LeBron to sustain elite-level play for over 2 decades. At 40 years old in the 2024-25 season, he became the oldest player ever named to an All-NBA team, averaging 24.4 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. That kind of longevity requires careful energy management, and defense often becomes the first casualty. LeBron's chase-down blocks became legendary precisely because they were so unexpected, so perfectly timed. The block on Andre Iguodala in Game 7 of the 2016 Finals represents everything beautiful about LeBron's defensive approach: patient, calculated, and devastatingly effective when it mattered most. But there's something almost tragic about this approach when compared to Jordan's reckless abandon. LeBron's method preserved his body and extended his career, But it also meant he never fully embraced the psychological warfare that made Jordan's defense so terrifying. LeBron wanted to win games. Jordan wanted to break souls. Nobody delivers uncomfortable truths like Stephen A. Smith, and his assessment of LeBron's defensive approach cuts like a surgeon's blade. During a recent First Take segment, Smith articulated what many basketball purists have been thinking, but were afraid to say out loud. "I've never seen Jordan run from a defensive assignment," Smith declared, his words hanging in the air like an indictment. But he was careful to frame his criticism properly, acknowledging LeBron's defensive capabilities while questioning his defensive mentality. There have been many occasions where I would have liked to have seen him accepting the tougher defensive assignment. Smith's critique isn't about ability, it's about approach. He recognizes that LeBron possesses the physical tools and basketball IQ to guard anyone on the court. The issue is philosophical. Where Jordan saw every defensive assignment as a personal mission, LeBron views defense through the lens of team strategy and energy management. Smith's analysis goes beyond individual games or seasons. He's questioning the very essence of what makes a competitor legendary. Jordan didn't care about energy conservation, he cared about domination, Smith argued, highlighting the fundamental difference in their approaches to greatness. Jordan didn't just play defense, he conducted psychological warfare. Every steal wasn't just a basketball play, it was a message. Every lockdown possession wasn't just good defense, it was a declaration of superiority. He understood that breaking an opponent's spirit was just as important as stopping their shot. The stories from former players read like testimonials from survivors of a psychological experiment. Players would spend entire timeouts not discussing strategy but trying to regain their composure after Jordan had stripped them of their confidence along with the basketball. He didn't just want to win, he wanted opponents to question their very existence on the court. Jordan's trash-talking complemented his defensive intensity perfectly. He would whisper predictions of failure into opponents' ears, then make those predictions come true through suffocating defense. "Nice game, rookie," he told LeBradford Smith after a strong performance, then proceeded to drop 36 points by halftime the next night while holding Smith to nearly nothing. The psychological impact extended beyond individual matchups. Entire teams would alter their offensive strategies based on Jordan's defensive presence. Point guards would avoid certain areas of the court. Shooters would rush their shots. Role players would defer to stars, knowing that Jordan was waiting to pounce on any sign of weakness. What made Jordan's defensive approach so terrifying wasn't just his physical ability, it was his complete disregard for consequences. While modern superstars carefully manage their bodies and energy, Jordan played every possession like his career depended on it. This reckless intensity created an aura of unpredictability that opponents could never prepare for. The league has changed dramatically since Jordan's era. Load management, advanced analytics, and sports science have created a more strategic approach to player development. Modern stars like LeBron can extend their careers by making calculated decisions about when to exert maximum effort. But something has been lost in this evolution: the raw, unfiltered competitiveness that made Jordan's defensive performances feel like life-or-death battles. Jordan's willingness to sacrifice his body for defensive stops created legendary moments that still give fans chills. The way he would dive for loose balls, contest every shot, and pursue steals with reckless abandon showed a level of commitment that bordered on obsession. He played defense like someone who had something to prove every single night. Players today are bigger, faster, and more skilled than ever before, but they're also more careful, more calculated, and more concerned with longevity than Jordan ever was. This shift has created more balanced careers but fewer transcendent defensive moments that define legacies. Decades after his final game, Michael Jordan's defensive legacy remains shrouded in mystery and mythology. The statistical controversies, the psychological warfare, the personal vendettas, all of it contributes to a legend that feels more like folklore than sports history. What makes Jordan's defensive legacy truly untouchable isn't the statistics or the accolades, it's the fear factor. Players still speak his name with a mixture of respect and terror, describing defensive matchups against him like battles for their basketball souls. That psychological impact has never been replicated and likely never will be. The modern NBA has evolved beyond the personal, intense defensive battles that defined Jordan's era. Strategic switching, advanced analytics, and load management have created a more efficient but less visceral defensive environment. The days of one-on-one defensive duels lasting entire games are largely gone, replaced by complex team schemes and calculated rotations. LeBron's defensive brilliance during his Miami years showed glimpses of Jordan-like intensity, but it was always tactical rather than personal. He could lock down opponents when needed, but he never made defense a personal mission the way Jordan did. The Kings' approach was smarter, more sustainable, and ultimately more successful in terms of longevity. But longevity isn't legacy. Jordan's defensive reputation has only grown stronger with time, enhanced by the mythology that surrounds his career. The statistical controversies, the psychological warfare, the complete disregard for personal preservation, all of it contributes to a legend that transcends basketball itself. 27 years after his final championship, Michael Jordan's name still carries weight in defensive discussions that modern superstars can't match. The fear he instilled in opponents, the psychological scars he left on competitors, the way he turned defense into personal warfare, these intangible qualities have created an untouchable legacy. While LeBron rewrote the record books and revolutionized player empowerment, Jordan rewrote the definition of competitive intensity. He showed that defense wasn't just about stopping opponents, it was about breaking them. And in a league full of calculated strategies and managed minutes, that level of raw, unfiltered competitiveness feels increasingly mythical. The GOAT debate will rage on, with valid arguments on both sides. But when it comes to pure defensive intimidation, to the ability to strike fear into opponents' hearts, to turning every possession into psychological warfare, Michael Jordan remains untouchable. He didn't just play defense, he weaponized it. And that weapon continues to cast shadows over every defensive performance that follows, a reminder of what true competitive obsession looks like. In an era of load management and strategic rest, Jordan's defensive legacy serves as a monument to a different time, when greatness was measured not just by longevity, but by the willingness to sacrifice everything for a single possession. That kind of intensity may be unsustainable in today's NBA, but it created something that analytics can't measure and time can't diminish. A legend that grows stronger with each passing year. The secret weapon wasn't his hands, his anticipation, or his athleticism. It was his refusal to accept anything less than complete domination, his willingness to turn every defensive assignment into a personal mission, and his ability to break opponents psychologically while beating them physically. That combination of skill and psychological warfare created something that modern basketball may never see again. True defensive intimidation that transcended the game itself. And that, perhaps more than any statistic or accolade, is why Michael Jordan's defensive legacy remains the one thing LeBron James can never truly match.